stick with the rhythm of the chat, but I'm going to have to jump pretty soon. So just to kind of complete that thought, and I'm only one voice and one vote, and hopefully I've packaged this with enough disclaimers that you can take or leave whatever I'm saying, right? But the point I was driving at is, like, even something like framing it as mammon. I can't tell you how many times in private talking to Paul, I'd be like, you're fetishizing failure here. It's like you're creating this dynamic where it can only be this or that. Yeah. It's like, no, you can create sustainable models that support something wonderful, right? You don't have to sell out. You don't have to become corporate, right? There are ways in which you can build community around supporting something that everybody wants to support, and do that sustainably and in a healthy way that is consistent with your mission, whatever that is, right? And so this is kind of, in my opinion, a bit of a false dichotomy. And I do wonder if some of it is at least cultural or, embedded in the kind of ethos of how you support something like this.
But what about the inward out aspect that I just mentioned?
Let me push back on that. Can I just push back a little bit on that? I think as a rule, that's the way it's been. But as Seabax had an interview with Aaron Wren, and one of the points he made was about church. Church is that mine? No, church. The small church is increasingly not economically viable because just the cost of real estate. And so what I'm wondering is if there's some truth to that. Just because it's not economically viable doesn't mean it's not spiritually necessary. Okay. So this is maybe where something like the online can intersect the real world, or the
because our virtual real estate is pretty cheap.
Exactly. And we can in a sense be like who was it, Joshua and Caleb, who held up the arms of Moses over when the splitting of the sea, so the people could pass. We could function at that level, and with financially, if we got used to giving. See, this is part of the problem, is we're just not trained to give online. We're very much we're conditioned to consume. So once there has to be a learning curve for the community online to think in terms of, I'm actively supporting this on the ground local ministry in Sacramento, and I'm going to do it at the tune of $35, $50, $100 a month, and I'm going to do it every month religiously.
Yeah, we should be taking advice from Grimm. He just commented. He's probably got the best track record of extracting financial support from people. Well, I am going to have to jump off, but the contribution that I was trying to make is, one, I have thought about and had many conversations about the subject,
and I want to hear more from you.
Coming at it from almost every angle you can imagine.
I'm sure.
I have a deep love for Paul and for this fellowship. I came at it from a different place than many, but I care, right? I've built capital campaigns. I've raised a lot of money. I understand that process. I get that this is a little different than your typical nonprofit. I get that. There is a difference. I think sometimes there's an allergy, though, around the practical realities of making something economically sustainable that don't have to include, quote unquote, selling out or mammon or some of these kinds of things. And that's my basic message. And what I've noticed, and having been on both sides of that, where I'm trying to raise money as well as having contributed significantly, I've seen both sides of that relationship, whether it's in granting organizations or individual donors or corporate support. I mean, like across the board, right? And the most important thing, if I was to try to distill it down to one thing, it's the relationship. That just like every other human endeavor, people who contribute seek relationship. They want to feel like they're participating in the way that they can participate, right? Which is, in that case, to offer financial support. And so if we treat it like it's an embarrassment, or we treat it like, we're a little allergic to it, or it's it's something that kind of needs to be kept on the down low somehow, or somehow it's going to destroy this beautiful thing, right? And again, I've of course seen that discourse, and as a person who cares about this space, I'm like, well, I would love to support and help. Am I somehow besmirching this beautiful thing by doing that, right? It's obviously not so. It's a rhetorical question, but my point is that it might be healthy for the TLC to examine this allergy to making something successful in all of the ways that success looks.
Nice.
I think you are one of the few in this space, Rod, that has the respect of the group, and we're not suspicious of you trying to use the group for your own benefit. I think that's the suspicion.
Yeah, if anything, I prefer just the opposite. Nobody, it doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah. So.
Very good, Rod. Thank you.
All right. Well,
I know you're busy.
To listen while I can, but thank you for taking the time.
Keep me up nicely, shall we say.
Okay, Mark Jackson, what you got for us?
I'm going to add to what you say, but go like super corporate. Hey, Mark. So I was listening to Paul's video, and I'm thinking he's just talking about management here. And he's got the deacon above, which is equivalent director, and he's got him, which is kind of mid-level management, and then he's got the congregation, which is like the employees. And so I don't know how familiar you all are with corporate America or whatever, but there's always like hundreds of millions of management training courses on offer, and I bet there's not a single one from a person, and he could probably charge quite a lot for it because it's so unusual. And on his side, he kind of gets a new congregation, so who knows what could happen there. So it's not just he's in league with Satan. It's like he's hanging around with the prostitutes, and he's, you see what I mean? It's not like corporate is evil. It's like, well, let's bring him on board and see what happens and lift the church up. Does that make sense to anyone?
You cut in and out on us a little bit, but now, I think I got it.
Ideas, not very good at executing.
Basically, a management consultant in the ways of internet pastoring.
So basically, Paul could do these management training programs. Sorry, say again, Neil.
Basically, he's a management consultant in terms of internet pastoring.
Yeah, it is a little bad. All right, let me hand it over to Mega Ron really quick.
Go direct to industry, corporate America.
Yeah, I also have to get going, but
right. Well, the thing is I didn't want this to become about telling Paul what to do or the church how to run itself. That's why I kept my proposition very simple and straightforward. Set a goal of 10,000 and a month, a monthly giving from the corner at $35 a head, and a goal of 300 unique givers every month at $35 a head. So it seems to me it's like a very straightforward. I guess my question was to everyone: is that even realistic? Is that? I let them figure out what to do with their ministry. Let Paul figure out how to manage himself going forward, and the church to manage themselves going forward. But for the time being, it seems to me like I'm certainly, in terms of my own channel, will be linking the church's Tithely account to my descriptions and encouraging people to give on my little tiny channel. But It seems like it just seems like a simple practical thing that can be done. Like Rod said, that's probably easier said than done. I understand that. That's all I got. I mean, it is just in terms of like, I'm very leery of trying to diagnose the problem, or tell them what they should do. I just makes me nervous. I'm not. I don't want to be one of Job's friends, Sam and Ron, Mega Ron. Sam is muted and his camera is off. Are you with us, Sam? Ron, do you have something? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. And none of them are financial. This reminds me of a bad medical prognosis for his community and TLC. And one, I think prayer. Pray like mad for Paul and the people, because like it's sad. You know what I mean? It's just people going through a hard time. So the first thing I know everyone can do is pray. It makes a difference. That's the one thing I feel like. This is not some deep spiritual moment. Like I'm like, oh, I'm sensing sadness. It's like, no, you don't need to be spiritual. Like Paul is not in a, he's not in a happy place, and nobody is. So this is the house of Wu. What do? We pray. You know what I mean? Just
Sure, absolutely. It also feels to me, though, it doesn't feel dire, and it doesn't feel. I don't want to catastrophize this at all. It seems to me like it's just like sometimes there are chores to do. So there's just sometimes you get to a point where the house needs the spring cleaning, and you're just going to have to take a weekend off, and from play and actually just clean up, do the hard work, and it sucks. And you might break a fingernail in the process. I don't know, but it seems I'm curious. I guess I would like people to come on or in the chat and just respond to me and say, that asking me to give $35 a month to Living Stones, to a church I've never been to and probably never will be going to, is either, I would like to know if it's a too big ask, a big ask, a reasonable ask. Do you think 300 people is it really? I know it's a challenge, but is it impossible? Do we not have 300 people who could give $35 a month to Living Stones to help them extend their runway, figure their ministry out, help Paul segue into retirement and transition a new minister, et cetera, et cetera? Is that just? I really want to know: is $35 a month for 300 people out of the corner? Is that too much to ask, or just right?
Yeah, it's too much to ask.
Too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? I'm just curious. I'm not being aggressive. I just want to know why.
No, I know you're not, Mark. You could set up a direct debit or whatever it's called these days, and set it and forget it, and then maybe that'll work for 10 people, maybe. Because who's going to do that? I don't know. He's got 20K subscriptions.
He's got right now
32.6
thousand.
Donate, so we're down to okay, 10% like a video, so 1% is gonna donate, if that. So that's 320 people. That's 320 people actually. That could work.
That's what I'm saying.
Look, 1% of his subscribers donated $35 a month. That would work.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me share the screen real quick. I'm going to show you something.
Okay, I stand corrected. Now I've done the math.
No worries. Okay, stop screen. Let's try to share the screen. Give to Living Stones. All right. If you go down in the description of Paul's latest video, it says, if you would like to donate to Living Stones CRC, you can, and it gives a link. This is the link you'll land on. All right. So then we click on Give Online Now, or you can do Set Up Text Giving, right? But it's basically the same program or the same service. It will then take you to this. Oops, and then I got to enter a PIN, which means I got to remove. Oh, sorry. Did I remove Henry? Sorry, Henry.
Oh, good. I just got here again.
Okay, I'm going to remove it, put in my PIN. All right. You'll then go to this. Put in your amount, general fund. Then there's a little box that says recurring. You click on recurring. Then every week, you can go every week, every 2 weeks, every month, or first and 15th monthly. So you can do it that way. Then you can choose card or bank, and you put in your amount up here, click, and you're done. You're recurring. All right. It's that simple. You can do it on your phone, although for some reason I did something and I locked myself out of the account on the phone. For some reason I could never fix it. But I was able to sort it out on the desktop. But it's really straightforward. And Mark Jackson did the math for us. We can come up with 300 people.
People are going to do it. Assuming 1%.
Assuming 1%. Yeah. We're assuming. But I lost everybody. We got Mark. Mark S is in the house.
So
Mark S, you want to say something,
I
or?
think Paul would make a great Neil manager.
Yeah.
On mute.
Well, I always want to say something, but I find it better when I don't. But I don't. Well, I figured like I made all these rules for my social media. I was going to try to get off, and then I broke them all, so I might as well just go on a binge.
Absolutely. Well, we're blessed by your binge, even if you aren't. So
thank you. I'm blessed to binge here. No, I just, I don't know how much it relates, but first of all, I don't want to. I'll be brief. I don't want to sound like I'm against supporting Paul at all. I'm not. I love Paul, and but just my observation. Like being middle aged, so I'm not a boomer. I'm not a zoomer. I'm in this other spot, and so at the church I go to, it's like a very nice building, really nice, kind of stylish, as nice as you can be while being Church of Christ. And but the thing is like I'm one of the young people, like I'm probably the youngest person there who actually does anything, who's actually like involved and does stuff. All the young people during church just like look at their phones during church because their parents make them go. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. There's this other church that's way more conservative across town, and they meet in a little storefront, and there's tons of young people there. And it's like really kind of vibrant. Their theology is maybe a little too conservative for me, maybe in some aspects, but I just feel like, these models are just not going to work anymore. where we have these nice buildings, and then because there's so much work and so much property taxes, and you got to get somebody to fix the roof and all these things. It's like my generation can't even afford a house. How are we going to maintain church buildings? So I don't know. I just came in. I just got here, so but I was thinking about this issue. How we, the church I go to, we want to like preserve this beautiful building, but dude, in 20 years, that building's done. Nobody's going to be able to take care of that, and so I feel like we just have to embrace the new era, of whatever that is. If it's meeting in homes or if it's meeting in storefronts or whatever. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of trying to support Paul, but just like Chad said, like self-supporting, I think that's pretty important, but I don't want to sound like I'm against supporting.
Oh, I understand. Just so you know, though, I mean, I've been to Livingstone's. It's not a great church building. You're not saving the church. The goal is not to save the building, with all due respect. But I think my guess is they probably own it free and clear, or close to it if they don't.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I heard in the video.
Okay, and rent on any even in light industrial spot will to even house a congregation of 100, and they're only half that, but they need room to grow if they're going to sustain, would probably be, well, it would probably be 10,000 a month, at least. So they'd be going, at least. I mean, and then I don't know what Sacramento real estate prices are for light industrial, and that'd be crappy light industrial. And then they'd have to get probably zoning because the light industrial wouldn't have parking to handle it. So they'd have to deal with the city and God knows what else. So you get or a storefront. A storefront is, you're talking commercial space. That's even more expensive. It's, to me, keeping a church on those grounds makes economic sense. It makes, and I hate giving up ground, period. It's one of the reasons I struggled with my church as long as I did, was I hate giving up ground to the devil, as they say. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, it's not for me to decide whether they keep their doors open or closed. It's not my job to save Paul. I'm just looking at this. Is this a ministry? I like small churches. Or small, medium-sized churches, neighborhood churches, as Paul described it. And I kind of want to help them. I mean, I can't help them all, right? Pick and choose. I know this guy. I've met some of these people. Seems like they're doing good work. I think that it looks like they could do good work for at least another 5 years. And who knows, after 5 years, they might have a new vision, a new leadership, and want to do new things, and God bless them. But I can help them for the next 5 years, I think. That's my thinking. Very simplistic. I'm extremely simplistic. That's for them to sort out what they do and how they do it. I'm asking, can I pony up a few bucks a month to help it, and can I gin up enough support to maybe extend that runway for them to sort themselves out? Ron, I think you had something to say, and then I heard something else.
I guess I'm on a completely different stream of thought. I always go towards prayer, and when it really hits the fan, fasting. And
Well, Ron, you shut down on us. You froze.
Oh, did I?
No, you're back. Now you're back. Okay, prayer and fasting. Yes.
Yeah, and
but prayer and fasting doesn't pay the rent.
no, but this
With
is
all due respect.
no, but this is where I get. Okay, so all right, man. This is. Give me a second. I'm processing something.
I'll say something. It's not about suggestions, and it's not anything
Okay.
particular. It's about just the nature of giving. Now that I've not jumped into the stream in a flurry and then get put on the spot about saying something that I have no business saying. Anyway, I was thinking of Patreon and means for creatives by which to receive support for the work they're doing, and that has been a viable means for, I can call it ministry. Artists that I really like are on Patreon and are funded predominantly, if not 100%, by those with whom I guess are their patrons. And I know that I was looking in the comments too. Some of it's like, are you in a church already and you're giving to that church? And then I was thinking about, where is our money going, or where's my money going? And I know that mine's going to my church in some capacity that I will not disclose. And then it's going to one artist on Patreon that I really like, that has done a lot of good work for me personally. And so there's, almost not an indebtedness, but it is that idea of like, I don't know, provide where you can to that which has been a help to you. And now that I've sat down and like set up my camera and stuff, I'm in support with Mark's kind of individual attempts to fund it, or like at least support. In this idea of like, how much can you give to Living Stones, if PVK stuff specifically is that which is the source by which the kind of media or influence and help or content or whatever it is you want to call it that you're receiving. So I'm not looking at that model. It tracks, it makes sense now that I've kind of sat down to like think about it after like kind of the flurry of discussion. That's all. I would just think of other spaces in which content creation is supported and funded, and it keeps it in the small scale too, technically. Because I found that in being a patron and with the work of this individual artist that I follow, I don't want their work to get big, like at all. I don't want her to like blow up and become like a big artist and like top billboards and stuff, because of kind of, the nature of what it has been. But I think that on that small scale and with that patronage, that is the way to do it too. Is that if it is completely funded by those with whom are, I don't want to say devoted, but those who are committed to seeing that work continue to be created. And that's just an outside view and observation, mostly of Patreon and not of the Living Stones PVK situation.
Right. Very good. Very good.
That's all. And that's
Thank
all I have
you,
to say
Henry.
about this matter.
Well, thank you, though. I appreciate it. Well, that's all you have for now. Give yourself a minute.
I have other topics, but
Let me read Brian really quick. Brian of Call Station says, if the internet is, oh my gosh. Okay. If the internet is funding the thing, I wonder if adding the internet to the ministry would make sense. Like if there was a StreamYard connection to the Wednesday morning coffee hour. And he followed up, then it would be distance members of the community giving money, not just strangers on the internet. It's not a bad idea.
that's
Ron. No, go ahead. What, Henry?
I was going to say, like the Patreon model is depending on how much you are a patron in terms of values, because they predetermine those usually. There are perks of being a patron as opposed to somebody who is able to benefit from the content freely, right, without pay through YouTube and other streaming services. And so, like, that makes sense as an incentive. But isn't the concern too, like, I don't want to be a consumer and I want to give and only support it? Like that feels a little weird with the church of like, you've paid to be here, now you can do the stuff virtually as a distance. But I don't want to just yap about this. I like that idea, but also, like, what are the ethics of that?
Well, my imagination, you get me spinning and I can come up with all kinds of creative ideas. But again, I really am trying to be respectful of the board, Living Stones, the congregation, and Paul. For them, they're smart people. Paul knows all about how to run churches. He's been in the middle of all of it for his entire life and from the womb on. So, I'm sure they've thought long and hard about it, and they have ideas. What they need is time, and that's the one thing I think we can buy them is time.
I've been thinking about all this, and I saw a comment where they said Paul took up an offering for the church in Jerusalem.
All right, that's like, true.
Yeah, I like that.
I made that comment
earlier. Did you?
Yeah, that's
Henry for the win. See, Henry, you got a lot of good stuff, man. You got a lot. You just come in way too humble.
My branding is incognito. B and my name are not the same. Yeah, Paul had the Jerusalem Collection Fund, and it's found throughout his letters. It starts as early as Galatians. Most of his letters at the time are closing with, "Hey, your brothers and sisters in Christ are struggling in Jerusalem given persecution, and because of probably some sort of, I don't remember the political or like other like environmental things, but there's a drought or there's some sort of shortage of food and finances. Like they're struggling. It's really bad just across that area, if not just leading into, the fall of Second Temple Judaism in 70 AD, or the fall of the temple. But
right.
Paul at the end of Romans talks about it. He pushes it again in First, if not also Second Corinthians. He speaks of the collection being taken up in Philippians and thanks him for that support and patronage as well. And so that's a common seed. But then the question is, actually, no, it is in Acts. They talk about doing the collection there. The church at Jerusalem says, like, if we can get others to pull the sources, like Paul suggested or comes up in Acts that they have essentially a love offering for the patronage of those present at that church because they were in such dire need.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of, and I hope it works. It reminds me of the movie It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm. That's a great film. Top 3 for me.
Yeah, it's good. And so, because Matt C made it, this would be a donation.
Yeah, it's just a love offering.
I like that. I like that. And by the way, if you make it instead of $35 a month, just go, hey, we're looking for basically a $400 donation per person. That's your end game. And you might have some millionaires in the Discord. You got 30,000 people. There's going to be a few millionaires in there. And so all it takes is a few whales to splash around and you got your cash. Because they want to give. Because, so what it is this is not for Paul pastoring. This honors Paul for what he's built. He built this thing, and so you're like, okay, listen, appreciate this place. Let's help it keep running for a little while. So, and also don't forget McMo's Ko-Fi. It doesn't help Living Stones at all, but it helps McMo and Grim Grizz.
Yeah.
The grift. What is it? Honor the grift.
I think everybody with all, I'm saying this a lot these days, with all due respect to the grifts downstream of Paul Vanderklay, I think they will all do much more poorly if he loses Living Stones as a base of operation.
Yeah.
And has to go out and figure out how to make a living over the next 5 years until he can start pulling from his pension. And so it's in everyone's interest to support Living Stones, especially those of you with grifts downstream. So keep that in mind. I know it's I always read McMo with a wink. I always feel like he's winking at me whenever he writes these comments. But it's in all seriousness. I think that I think the corner will unwind without Paul's regular involvement. So it's in the interest of the corner too, if you care about this space, to figure out a way to be supportive of his ministry at Living Stones. Just my opinion. It's called. See, he's winking again. Okay. Well, have we exhausted this subject? Do we want to move on to another one, or
Form the
do
committee, make it happen.
it won't? I guess we could keep revisiting it. I didn't finish playing. I guess I can finish playing the rest of Paul's video, and we can close it, or we can move on to some Wooier stuff, and I could change the background to. Oh, I didn't upload it. No, well, this is the not colored one, but Seymour, brother Seymour. What do you guys think?
I mean, I have nothing else to say on the matter, but
Could put on my evangelist glasses and get, send your donations in.
Oh man, you look like a cult leader. You look like a hippie with those on.
A cult leader.
No. You
Times and vibe.
here we go.
We're bringing the vibes for the tithes.
We at my church, we were joking about the financial stuff for a long time. I was like, we need to get somebody to do a bad Bob Dylan impression, play the guitar and the harmonica, and we'll do like a really bad song called Tithe and Vibe. And that was my thing for the longest time.
That's
a joke. It was never a real serious idea, but Tithe and Vibe. You don't want your church closing down its doors. Keep the lights on, tithe and vibe, and you do the harmonica like that. That's the tithe and vibe. It's a Bob Dylan song.
Very good.
I like McMo. McMo nailed it.
He wants you to lead us in prayer before we leave. So let me change back to the background. We gotta go back to our background. I'm very happy with this thumbnail, by the way. I thought it was pretty funny. I liked it.
That was pretty good.
That's a good. For those of you who see, the thing is this is all boomer imagery, right? Does anybody know these anymore? The interruption of your regular scheduled program.
I do.
Is that nobody can relate to that these days, right?
I know what it is.
Because you kids don't even watch TV anymore. It's all
I used
internet.
to watch TV. I had PBS Kids when I was 5.
Oh, okay. Good.
And I saw that stuff at 6 in the morning.
Exactly.
And those, when the severe weather broadcasts come up, that kind of freaked me out. I'd be it just completely drops my programming, and I didn't like that. I was watching Arthur. Put it back on.
Scary.
McMo, come on in and send in some of your wisdoms. In all seriousness, he says, we are as much an albatross for PVK's future as potential source of success. I'm not sure. How are we an albatross other than that? We could besmirch the very nature of the corner could besmirch his reputation. Is that what you're suggesting? We are a scurrilous and unkempt bunch. Yeah, we are that. Courage, the cowardly dog. All right, so Ron, do you want to lead us in prayer?
Yeah,
for Living Stones and PVK.
If anybody else wants to, I don't. If
we have a specific request for you to lead us, so I'm gonna hand it off.
All right, cool. Lord help. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Neil, you popped back on.
Hi, Neil.
What I needed to, and
Yeah.
it's really good seeing Henry, and he looks tan and more rugged. I remember him. It looks like he's been through a summer transformation. And that seemed like an inappropriate topic to bring up during the PVK focus, but now that we are in more intimate settings, I can compliment his rugged, manly look. Yes.
Thank you. It's all about the framing of the camera, really.
I did have a woo story, actually. It's a little one. It's kind of a baby one, but I can share it. So I went on this Catholic men's retreat. It's like doing kind of 2 events this summer, and it was that Catholic men's retreat that's much smaller, and then Midwestuary, and they're radically different events. So I'm kind of excited to compare and contrast the experience. But during this Catholic men's retreat, at one point I'm responsible for reading something, and it's nighttime, and we're outside, and it just rained, so it's like muddy, and it was, you know, a lot of logistic issues were complicated with that situation. And so I'm reading, and I have a light that's basically hanging from my neck, and so it's lighting up what I'm reading because we're in the dark. And because we're moving around, I have to take it off my neck, and I'm like fumbling with the light because it's dark, and it drops in the middle of like what I'm reading, and then it like hits the concrete really embarrassingly, and it's just like an incredibly awkward situation. So I pick up the light and go to my reading, and the next line I have to read, like literally the next line that I have to read is, "Unless a seed falls to the ground and dies." And so I read the line. And then afterwards people are like, "Did you mean to drop it?" Like right there. But
it's funny when those things happen, though. I think we can all relate.
I want to take a jab at Rod since he's not here, and I love taking a jab at people that are, let's say,
well, especially a man with as much gravitas as Rod has.
Yeah, he's an emotionally resilient dude. I am punching upwards, and
definitely,
which is, PVK knows as well as I do that death is far from the end. And I loved what Ron said earlier about prayer and fasting with such things, because like, you know, often we assume that like holding on to whatever we've got, whatever it is like not only the highest good, but it's the heroic, like manly thing to do or whatever. And I really think that's one of the things that sets Christianity apart from all other religions. It's that willingness to let go and let God, for lack of a better phrase. Like it's really that simple. It's that concept of grace. Like, I cannot fix this. Like, I don't know what's, like, it's the genuine I don't know what's best. Like, I don't know. And it's that utter humility in the case of the Almighty. Now, in times of my life, like, I do know that I have a job to do and I have to do it well, and it's my responsibility. But like, when there's not a clear path forward, that reliance on grace is hugely, in my opinion, underrated. Like, it's something that even as Christians, like, we say like, no, we gotta step up. We gotta, you know, it's like, I put grace like all the way at the top, unless I clearly know from God what I need to do and why. It's Jesus take the wheel like all the way down. And inevitably that's going to,
what does that look like in this situation?
I don't know. I think it's basically giving it time and prayer and waiting and seeing what happens. And CRC might come to him with an offer. Someone else might come to him with something.
Well, I'm not thinking though, just in terms of Paul. I'm thinking about, when I think of Living Stones, I think about Charles and Freddie and people I've met there, and that neighborhood, and the role that his ministry has played, and these people, the church, see, Paul can go. Paul will be fine. I'm not worried about Paul. He's resourceful and he has means to make whatever transition he needs to make. He'll be fine. The other characters, some of them may not be. They don't have as much flexibility. It's harder for them to travel. It may not be a church. There may not be a church within reasonable range travel, for them, reasonable distance for them to travel to. And plus the challenges of building relationship. And not everyone is equally able to initiate new church relationships easily or at all. I mean, so it's the whole situation. I mean, it's just not Paul. It's like I said, the people and the community that has to be at least paid attention to. And I'm not against waiting on the Lord or prayer. I'm not, honest. But there is a part of me is there. Theme of the month for me is what must I do? It's very much what must I do now? I mean, the people are going to John the Baptist. What must we do? Zacchaeus, what must I do to be saved? Or what is it? Tell us what we need to do now.
We're going to go to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man is going to be lifted up. That's what's going to happen.
Got him.
Well, he has been and is.
But I'm saying, like, that really is one of the defining differences between Christianity and all other faiths. Mm-hmm. It's so weird because I totally get it. When our church closed, when my church that I came into the Catholic Church, and this church is the church my wife grew up in. It's like really, really important to our family. And that church was closing. We had many parishioners that said, "Oh, if this church closes, I'm just not going to church." And like, I was thinking to myself, like, man, like, do you not even know the basics of what Jesus taught? Like the basics, like Jesus saying, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you'll have no part in me." Mm-hmm. And then everybody but the apostles leaves. And then Jesus saying, "Oh, are you also going to go too?" Like, it's almost like, it's like under the surface, we're secretly prosperity gospel people. Under the surface, it's like the minute things get hard, we're prosperity gospel. My father-in-law said, I'd known my father-in-law for 12 years, and he came on this men's retreat. And I thought, like, oh, I know everything about this man. I've known him for 12 years. And then he dropped like a little bit of wisdom at one point where I was like, oh man, that nailed it. He said, when times are good, we don't need God. Mm-hmm. And then when times are bad, we blame God.
Huh. That's funny. Right.
He dropped that and I was like, oh.
Say that one more time.
When times are good,
mm-hmm.
we don't need God.
Mm-hmm.
And then when times are bad, we blame God.
I see.
And I would substitute that with the world, the circumstances that we are put in beyond our control. So I always get God number 1 and God number 2 mixed up. I know we haven't talked about those in the corner, but the Arenic God, the God that's truly omniscient and omnipotent and has full control over the arena that we find ourselves in. So at the end of the day, that arena is at his feet, So maybe like every disaster under the sun happens to Midwest area. We get terrible weather. Our audio-visual system collapses. Nobody shows up. People get into a fist fight. Like maybe it's the worst thing ever. I can imagine infinite ways in which this retreat that's happening over the next 4 days or 5 days is going to go wrong. I can imagine like infinite ways, and it's all an act of faith.
Right.
Like, it's all like, Lord.
You've been through a lot of storms in Louisiana. How many big storms have you been through since you've lived
Personally?
there? Yeah.
2.
2. Are there things you do that you just do because they have to be done?
You make sure you have a full tank of gas. If you have a generator, you test the generator and you make sure that has a full thing. You have diesel stored up.
Right.
You make sure you have bottled water. Food is less of an issue, but they make sure you can start a fire if you have a gas. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then there's and you thankfully I assume you have resources to do it, right? I mean you have some people you probably worry about people who don't have the resources to protect themselves properly, right? I mean but you definitely, for you and your family, you do what needs to be done, and see, it just seems to me like it's almost some things are just kind of like, it sounds going to sound bad as a Christian, but I'm going to say it's like no prayer required. You just do it. Because I mean, it's not like, it's like, I've been in a lot of weird situations, a lot of scary situations. I'm going, oh God, oh God, oh God, the whole time while I'm shoveling and scurrying about and doing all the stuff that needs to be done. There's a lot of, oh God, please get us through this. But I don't stop doing all the stuff that needs to be done while I'm praying. So I guess, can we do both? Can we trust God? Can we go to the cross and still do what we have to do to kind of in the moment, just the in the moment stuff?
Yeah. Like I was thinking about this a lot with Chad's conversation with Josh yesterday, and sometimes I desperately ask God to give me guidance and direction because I feel I need guidance and direction. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but then the feeling of the need for guidance and direction was just an illusion of the need, and it was okay. And I didn't actually need, it was perfectly fine that I just rested and waited. Other times I'm not expecting from God. Other times I'm not expecting like a change in direction or a clear, and then it just hits me unexpectedly. And almost always when that happens, it's like, oh fuck, like it's like a ball of, it's like a weight that just gets dropped. And those are the moments that I really trust, when that happens, when I'm not even looking for guidance or direction, and then it hits me. So sometimes it's in conjunction. Sometimes I am looking for guidance and direction, and then it hits me, and then I know what I need to do. And it's something that's not primarily an act of will. The act of will is secondary to what is received. So meaning I have a sense of like, I have to do this. I have that sense, and it's beyond me. And then I have to grasp the hand, you could say, and just walk by faith, whatever it might be. In regard to a storm, actually, I could tell this quick story. So this was about 4 years ago. This was Hurricane Ida. Hurricane Ida was the last big hurricane that hit New Orleans. It was bad. Like, we had a lot of damage, but the levees didn't break. And so that's why it wasn't like huge, significant, like Katrina was. But Hurricane Ida, I think, was like Category 3. It did a lot of wind damage, a lot of other things. Anyway, so I had a concussion the week prior. Goodness. I went to a trampoline camp with my daughter, or not camp, trampoline park, and I was like flipping around, like literally flipping around with her. And then like I felt fine. And then the next day, throughout the day, I had this headache that like steadily grew and grew and grew. And by the end of the day, like I couldn't get out of bed without like this piercing headache, like just absolutely migraine intensity. And then the following day, that Monday, like I went to urgent care, and I was like, I didn't hit my head on anything, but they're like, yeah, even just like that kind of movement, if your body's not used to it, can cause concussion. Yeah. So anyway, so I was in bed with a concussion, and then the weather report keeps getting, the Hurricane Ida is getting closer and closer. And my father calls me, and I talked to my wife about it, and I'm like, man, I'm in no position to go anywhere. Like if I drive anywhere, I'm going to end up throwing up, you know, I just can't. And my wife's like, all right. And then my father calls me on Thursday, and my father says, what the hell are you doing? Get your family out of there. Like I told him, I was kind of whining to my dad, right? I was like, oh, I have this concussion, and blah, blah, blah. And he was just, you know, basically told me to man up. And it was great. It was great advice. It was really good advice. Like, I'm really glad my father, that's the most angry that my father has gotten at me in the last like 5 to 7 years. And yeah. And so like I'm like, fine. And I'm still in bed. I still can't really do anything. And so I talked to my wife, and she's like, okay, fine. But like, we're not going unless you get a full tank of gas. We're not leaving, because I'm not getting stuck out on the highway with like an empty tank of gas. And I completely understand, like, this is how people in New Orleans think, because they've been in that situation with Hurricane Katrina and other things. Okay. So it's Friday evening. I'm going out and trying to get, maybe my father called me on Friday actually. And the hurricane's going to hit like Saturday evening. That's when it's going to start. So I go out and I try to get gas. Every gas station's empty, like every single one. And I still have a really bad headache, but I'm popping Excedrin like crazy to reduce the headache. And like I go to gas station after gas station, it's like everything's empty. And I'm like way out in the, what is it called? In the bayou. I'm like way out in the swamp, and I'm looking, and I finally get to this like and I this whole time I'm like praying to God. I'm like, God, if it's not your will for us to go, if it's your will for us to just sit, you know, in the storm, so be it. So we get out, and I get out into the bayou after like an hour of searching for gas, and I found a gas station with a line, and so I get in the line, and it inches forward slowly, and I'm like, they're gonna run out right when I get up there. And so, but I get up to the gas pump, and I put it in, and I'm filling up gas, and the pressure is so low, right? It's taken like 10 minutes to fill like 5 to 10 gallons of gas, like 10, or maybe not that long, but it felt like 10 minutes, you know, and because the pressure is so low, but it fills up, and I got the full tank, and I go back home, and I said, we have a full tank. And my wife's like, all right, let's leave first thing tomorrow. And so we took the back roads. Took us about 8 hours to get to the Houston area. It normally takes like 5 or 6, but we made it. And not only that Saturday morning, popping Excedrin again, my headache had abated just enough that I could drive. And it was better if I was driving than if I was like getting car sick. But it abated just enough that I could actually drive. And I was able to drive for like 5 hours.
Wow.
And my wife took over, and I like finished it out. And so like these things were like perfect. Like that was the last gas station, like in the bayou. Like there's no way I was going to get a different gas station. And then like if my headache was still like the way it was the day prior, like I'd probably be throwing up. Like it would have been terrible. And yeah. And so we made it. And then that hurricane hit, and we were without power in this area for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And we don't have a generator. So we made it.
Nice. No, there's times you just have to do some things. Yeah, you just have to muscle through if you possibly can. But I don't know. It just, I sometimes there's faith in action, and there's faith in contemplation, and there's a time for each. But sometimes it's like, you have no choice but to put one foot in front of the other, even if you don't know where it's leading. But that's there's all you know is what to do next, and it seems like that might be the situation Livingstone's is at. There's just you can always just shut down. I mean, like he said, they can sell the property and more or less unwind the church. It probably, is the church going to serve? The way it sounded, the likelihood of the church surviving a move is low, because it actually will increase their costs and give them cash to work with on the one hand, but how long would the ministry survive? But it seems to me it's just like I can't plan. And again, I have no input in terms of helping them, telling them what to do. I have nothing to offer. I just kind of say, what can the corner do is my question. That's the question of the stream.
Yeah.
Well, I would say if you're called to do something, whether it's advocate, to give, or to give yourself, like if you feel called to do it, that's important. Follow the call.
Yeah, pretty simple, very simple. Look, Mosif, you have reached us.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. Trying to get excited for Midwest-uary. Right now, I've just got miles of road ahead of me, so I'm not as exuberant as I may be.
Are you driving there now? Are you driving there now?
Yeah, basically, as soon as my wife gets off of work, we're driving to Lexington, Kentucky tonight. If you're part of the federal envoy tasked with following all of the PLC members as we congregate in Midwest-uary.
The headquarters of KFC. It's the sworn enemy of Popeye's fried chicken.
Yeah. Somebody check the pizza stores by all of the CIA and FBI offices around Chicago. See if there's an uptick because TLC is coming to town. Well, one thing I was thinking about that I don't think has necessarily been touched on, for good reason, is, I guess Matt C kind of touched on it a little bit in the comments, but I think I totally understand PVK's perspective as a kind of winsome, pessimistic Calvinist. Because there is a sense where churches come, churches go, blessed be the name of the Lord. The flowers and the grass of the field come, and then they are harvested, or they wither and die in the sun. And so I think that PVK is probably less worried about this than the neurotic hive mind that kind of follows him around. Maybe like he outsources a lot of his potential neurosis to us. I think he lets us worry about things, and then he kind of summarizes what we're worried about, and then gives the old what is his pattern? It's creation, fall, redemption, but he's got another way of saying it. I can't remember at the moment, but
well, if he was to push back a bit, I'm doing a lot of that today, I guess, is he have posted the video at all and gone to the hassle of writing this essay or report? If he were as pessimistic and pacifist as you suggest.
My understanding of him
real
is
quick,
that
Matt, real quick.
You just told a 30-minute story, Neil.
What you have to remember is if someone in the church knows what he just told us today, it would get out to the corner anyway. And so it's better to come from him than if it's public knowledge, is my point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a simple explanation, is that, of course, PVK has thought extensively, written in his journals, probably recorded multiple videos that he has not clicked publish on about tons of stuff that goes on at Livingstone's. And so to me, it is to your point, Mark, I think a very interesting question of like, why did he release the video? I'd have to think more about Neil's suggestion that it's because it would have leaked. I got the impression that it was just more of a kind of like update, like a life update, and And he said that he told the church Sunday, so he told the church before he published the video, kind of a thing. And he said in the video that he had been thinking about it for a long time, like he wrote up that whole thing. So um yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me, like, I don't know if this is a situation of like stewardship of and kind of invalid care of the body, you could say, or if this is a last call, like a calling for support. I think it would be good that we supported him either way. um but I don't read as much at kind of a wink wink hint hint, can you guys help save my church?
No, I
Yeah.
don't see it as that either. No. I don't see anything undignified or untoward about any of this. Or underhanded or duplicitous. I see it as, yes, very much a realistic, calm statement of the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. This is what they are. This is what we could do. We could do A, B, or C. And I've seen each of them implemented somewhere else, and to mixed result with mixed results, etc. He went through all that, did all that sort of thing, and I don't feel like I'm neurotic about this, but I don't, because to me it's just, all I did was look at the numbers. I said, what would it take to get to $10,000 at a reasonable ask, and to get to $10,000 a month, to give them their runway to figure themselves out. And
Well, I know,
and
I know
organizations,
exactly.
go
I
ahead.
know. I know exactly what doesn't work, and it's making weird music and live streaming every weekend. That will not get you that kind of money.
Well, I think you have little faith. You got to keep toiling in the field a little longer, McMo, and I think you might get there. Making your weird music, live streaming on weekends.
I don't even
But
want to be famous. I just want to be
no,
rich. But
well,
yeah, we have to make sacrifices. Somebody's got to be
yeah,
famous.
we all can't be Jordan Hall.
This is true.
Um,
You look like you're Jordan Hall time traveling from the future.
really?
When you with the because he's got his little goatee going on, or like
Yeah.
with his beard.
Okay.
There's a resemblance. Especially with you wearing those funky shades.
My funky shades. Well, since I don't want to put on the funky shades, because I do think this is serious. As much as I like my funky shades, I just feel like, do the math. It's easy. I know some people 35 a month is just a big ask. If you can't do 35 a month, then don't do it. But I know there are a lot of people out there who can, and I'm guessing there are 300 people in the corner who could manage that. And I know that there are probably a decent percentage of those who give in excess of that. And it wouldn't cost us, literally, we would not feel it. I know there are people who feel I've been there. I've actually lived long enough and been poor enough to where I would feel $35 or $5 or every amount of money. And there have been times when it's like, oh, ouch. Yeah. But that's not where I'm at right now. And I know I've had it all, been in all the places. And it's just like, so I have total sympathy. This is not the guilt trip people who can't give or who would hurt to give. This is more like, as I think, what is it? Henry said, love offering. It's just like, if you got it to give, as just joy, out of joy and love, the link's there. It's easy to find. Give to Living Stones and do it in a way that will help them sustain themselves. Would I like a little more organization behind it? Like I said, maybe with the cooperation of the board, so that we would say we have a target, and we would know whether or not we're meeting the target. I mean, I can post the link, but I
think a lot
won't
of
have
times, yeah, I think a lot of times you either need organization or you need cooperation. Um, a lot of times people want organization when what they actually need is cooperation. A lot of times people want cooperation when really what they just need is organization.
that. Right.
Um, I I still like, I think yeah, a love offering would be great. A uh, general reminder from all of the neighboring channels to say, hey, like support PVK by supporting his church, kind of a thing. But this is why I brought up the Calvinism with PVK because
Well, that's
he
his neuroses. See, that's really, I mean, I think that you talked about our neuroses. Frankly, if the Calvinism is turned to fatalism, it's his neuroses. And
no,
I
well,
don't
no,
think
no,
he's
no,
that neurotic,
no,
but
no. The fatalism is kind of more of a mood. You can think that things are determined that it not be fatal. Like that's not. And to say that something dies for a Calvinist is just as you know is just as fatalist as to say that something can be resurrected. Like those are not the same thing. So that's a little bit of a straw man. But it's not. It's more importantly, it's not the point.
we lost you, brother. Testing, McMo.
Tell me, baby girl, 'cause I need to know.
All right, you gonna
I
sing
need
for
to
us?
know.
I love when Neil sings.
We all do. We all do. All right. Well, McMo, Mega Ron, what you got for us?
Let me pray one more time because the last time I prayed, I got all choked up. I don't know if that was emotionalism on my part because you know what it. Can I get it? Can I swing the bat one more time?
I think your prayer was fine and it's
Okay.
heartfelt. If you don't need to. There's no. We trust you in the Lord. It's all good.
All right.
But if you would like to, that's fine. Or you want to do it
No,
at the end.
it was good. No. If
Yeah,
you
I think it was good, man. I think it's all right. I understand.
okay.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, I don't feel pessimistic about this. I just feel like.
Well, can I throw something else at you? And this is not what I want for Living Stones at all. But I'll give you what happened at my church. The school closed down. They had a school that was running for a while, and man, and the people running it did not want it to shut down at all. Um, Long story short, the person running it got a new job at a high-end university where their son was going, and now their son will have, I think, 90% tuition reduction, and at the end of his graduation, they will have saved him $140,000. And with Paul, like, do I want Livingstone's isn't gone, but there might be something else for Paul to do that God, it's not like he's taking living stones away. It's like good and faithful servant, and it's not like he's dying either. It's like this is one chapter of your life. Good job, well done. By the way, you're not done. Books, but whatever. There could be a lot of things for a lot of new people. So anyhow, I've seen good come out of what seems to be bad situations. And it's
Oh yeah, no. There's always the Lord will redeem things and give us. Again, it's like whether Paul's. I totally agree. Paul could be a superstar and be making a lot more money elsewhere doing other things. That doesn't change. That doesn't change the logistical needs of Living Stones, in the sense that they still need a runway. They still need time. They need the time to reorganize with or without Paul. They need the time to transition.
Yeah.
And in whatever direction they're going to go in. And so it's like, it doesn't really change much. I mean, whether Paul's there or not there, it's like, it seems like they've given to us, I think Grimm touches on this, they've given to us the base, the facility where Paul transmits his message and has for many years now. And it's just like, it's, if you can give back to him, it seems like a reasonable thing to do for the time being. Whether it's, and because there is going to be a time when it's no longer led by Paul, and that's good. God willing, they'll be there to be led by somebody else. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Totally.
Because I just feel like we can buy them time if enough of us participate. Yeah. And that's what they really need. It's just time to sort themselves out and figure out their mission and where to go from here. And I feel like there's a sense of obligation that's not neurotic, but also not unreasonable.
One of the reasons I always trusted Paul, it goes back to, I think it's best summarized in a scene in Fellowship of the Ring, where Sam and Frodo, Merry and Pippin wind up at the Prancing Pony Inn in Bree, and they go up to the innkeeper and they're like, yes, we're looking for Gandalf. And the guy's like, oh, long beard, pointed hat, haven't seen him in weeks. And then they're worried, and then Aragorn's there like smoking in the corner in the darkness. And anyway, so like they follow Aragorn out into the wilderness, but the quote that summarizes it is like, I think an agent of the Dark Lord would feel what was it? Smell better and feel fouler or something like that. Henry might know the exact quote. I'm messing it up.
You're on the right track. I don't have it quoted though. I'm not like that.
Yeah, it's like an agent of the enemy would smell better and feel like around the edges. You know, watching one of Paul's videos around the edges, you're like, what? Like, is this a YouTuber? Like, what are you doing? And I felt that way about Chad too. But getting to know Living Stones and getting to know that situation, and I honestly, that's something I've noticed the more I get to know the Gospels, is like Jesus regularly trades off quantity for quality. Like he regularly makes that trade-off, and like the steepest slope, like he's very voluntarily like giving up the 5,000 for like the 1 or the 12. And I see PVK doing that over and over and over again. It's something I've respected him for it. I don't know exactly how that applies to this situation, but I think it's less. I think it's about him not trying to be the one to save his church, and if it's by God's grace that his church is saved, then all glory to God. And I think I see that like exemplified in him.
Yes,
whereas
I
see
agree with that.
most Christian YouTubers are like trying to win, like. You know,
he has a very what would you call it? A providential mindset.
Yeah. Like he's really does believe in God's grace. Yeah,
totally. But there's just enough. I mean, I'm glad he's told us, because I've needed the reminding, because there was, like I said, for some reason the website glitched out on my phone, and I couldn't. At some point it stopped working, and I couldn't make it work, and I kept thinking, I need to fix that. And like, oh, he posted this. I thought, boy, I better. So I still couldn't fix it on my phone. So I went on the desktop and fixed it finally. And so I needed that reminder, because if you don't, that's kind of the thing too, is if like somebody mentioned cooperation, it'd be really nice to just have the cooperation with the board, that if we kind of said we have a little, I don't know how we would organize ourselves, because we are so disparate, in the corner. But just online, just maybe an indicator that said you're at 30% of your goal for the month online giving. Just call it that.
Well, if there's a specific goal for a specific purpose, I think that, like for example, our church had to raise money for an air conditioning system that was $25,000, and that's precisely what we knew we had to hit. But the question is like, really, the goal would be something like we need 150 new total parishioners, and we're at like 107 right now. Of like,
Right.
I don't know, like.
Right. It's
I mean,
tricky.
but that could be a real goal of like, okay, we're gonna get, but I don't know. It sounded like PVK had already played that card out. He's already done the door to door. He done the local Sacramento shuffle, so to speak.
Yeah, it's hard too because like I don't think CRC is such a unique denomination. It's not. I can't remember who I was telling or talking to about this, but it's not like my Church of Christ, where we really were free to, because we weren't part of a denomination. We were totally free to combine with another congregation. The only thing limiting us was the imagination and willingness of the board to take action. With the CRC, it's they got that denominational thing going on, and there's a fairly unique immigrant church tradition. Even though most of them aren't Dutch at this point at his church, it's in ancestry. It's still got that heritage to it. So finding another church to combine with might be a challenge. So their options are different. That's what all I'm pointing out is that their situation a little different than what it was with the Church of Christ that I was in. So that limits their range. It could limit their range of choices, I suppose. I frankly don't even know who holds title to the property. Is it the local congregation, or is it the denomination?
Oh, I think from what I understand of the CRC, every church is locally owned. That's what I.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if they do sell and they close up shop, then where do the assets go? To the denomination or to whatever charity they send it to?
I have no idea. Yeah.
Like I said, my only point here is not to tell anybody what to do, but to see what we can do. I'm just to explore what we can do. And at the very least, the bare minimum I can do on my channel is post the link to the donation, to the site, and where to give at Living Stones. Encourage people to do it and go from there.
This could just be entirely random coincidence, but just the fact that this announcement comes out 5 days before the largest TLC conference we've ever had seems providential, at the very least.
I was just thinking.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, no, I finish your thought, but I was thinking that right before you said that, just the timing. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what it means or what's going to happen. I'm sure that it's going to be on the forefront of everyone's minds going into Midwest Tour and be eager to help Paul in whatever capacity he sees fit. But it's so interesting because of the nature of the TLC and the nature of Paul and quite frankly his humility. But he knows the gospel just as well as I do, which is ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door shall open. And so he knows that he's in a position where he can ask if necessary. Yeah, Clara, the general announcement. Yeah, the general announcement is that their church is running out of money and they have a runway. And I think he said September of 2026 is when they will basically no longer be able to pay his pastor's salary with the current runway. So they have some time to figure out what to do, but basically that their church is in a position where they need to figure out what their long-term plan is.
Right. Yeah, I just want to make sure because we've now been going for almost 2 hours. So yeah, there are people who are hopping on and probably aren't clued into what we're talking about. So yeah, and the whole point of this live stream, Clara, and for anyone else who's curious, is to discuss about ways of helping them extend their runway, give them a little more, basically buy them time to sort out the ministry and their mission and see if, and I'm really wondering, and the benefit of this discussion we've had, you guys have helped me, is I'm starting to think that maybe one way to make the neighborhood church viable in the 21st century is the integration of the online. Support of online communities like ours for neighborhood churches, and where the two may only meet once or twice a year or something, but it seems like Sam said, the real estate's cheap here, but it's real expensive on the ground out there, right? I mean, and as I pointed out, if they own their property outright, for them to move to a storefront, whoa, they'll double or triple their monthly costs if they aren't paying on real estate now. So it's hard to sustain. Now mega churches have no problem, right? I mean, it's a economics of scale. They can 5,000 people can do a lot.
I will be really interested to see what PVK's keynote is on what is fellowship, what is spirit, fellowship of the spirit, what is a church.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm hoping, maybe this will, guys will be some of the topics of discussion. This will be a topic of discussion for you guys at your breaks and whatnot, over lunch and dinner and what that you just. I'm curious to see what comes out of Midwestuary, to see if there's any thoughts, decisions, resolutions, goals. We're not used to any. I mean, the most action that has been taken by the corner have been these conferences, right?
Yeah.
And then like Chad's, the family thing, like the bathroom and the baby shower.
But the reality is, I see us more as like a spiritual incubator than maybe that's a good way of putting it. Spiritual incubator. It's like you don't take the college and say, hey, college, you have to make a business, you have to go out into the world and make something of this land.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people that are in this space and coming out of this space are going out into the world, into their lives, and doing things. I see so many big names in like the new Peterson sphere space now, like this guy PF Jung, sorry. And there are lots of others, like Benjamin Boyce is another one. Like so many of them are inspired and downstream of Jordan Peterson. And when I say Jordan Peterson, I don't mean political Jordan Peterson. I mean 2016, 2017 Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And like those seeds that he scattered over that time are just in the last like 4 or 5 years really, really hatching. And I see TLC doing something similar. It's like the seeds that we've been scattering, I think, will also be hatching. I don't think, maybe not on the same level, but we don't know what the people in this space, how they've been changed or molded or improved by this space, and what they're going to be influenced to do,
Right. We don't. Well, and as you said, an incubator. It's one of the things that when my son was touring colleges while he was still in high school, we traveled. One of them was MIT, and we learned that in his department it was super common for the part or the majors that he was interested in anyway. At MIT, almost all the undergrads were involved in startups of some kind, either their own or participating in somebody else's at the ground level. And that's so when you say the old school college, I mean, the traditional college, you do your learning, and then you go out into the real world. MIT,
I'm gonna learn you some knowledge, son.
Exactly, but in MIT, it was you're doing your learning and you're doing you're starting up things. You're venturing out, all at the same time, all in kind of a single motion. They could pull that off because the kids were really bright. But the whole culture was kind of oriented to that. And my understanding is Stanford is similar like that. So as an incubator, I could see maybe that incubator metaphor is not bad. If the corner could be something like that, a vibrant intellectual community and spiritual, but also a place where organisms get their start.
Henry's
final
been really
thoughts.
Quiet. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Neil, and then final thoughts.
No, Henry's been quiet. Ron too, but I know Ron's just praying over there, so we're good.
I don't know if I have any more thoughts on PVK Livingstone situation necessarily. Just kind of listening at this point and trying to stay awake because I didn't get to take a nap after work today.
Oh no.
Because traffic. Anyway. No, C.S. Lewis talks about in Work and Prayer, his essay from God in the Dock, saying that Pascal says that prayer is God's gift to us for causality and the ability to kind of work in this world, and the actual work with our hands is the same thing. Work with our hands is obviously a less powerful but very blunt and direct kind of means of change, and then prayer in of itself is much like work, except far more powerful and mysterious. And I think that both can be done in tandem with one another in this situation, in another situation. And so at the same time as there's prayer and fasting with regards to living stones, or prayer and fasting with regards to other concerns within the church, within individuals' lives, work in small steps can be done, opportunities can be created. I think on the independent level, though, I don't know if the TLC necessarily needs the corporate kind of the church would be we need to pray about this as a church. And you're great, because this is your church. But the TLC necessarily, or corporately combine that's a little bit different. I don't want to open another can of worms, but yeah, Mark, if you can give, and if I can throw in $10, I'd throw in $10 probably to PVK. That's an arbitrary number, is just what I'm thinking of. But I think that the work can be done on the small scale individually. At the same time, prayer for something greater, mysterious, more providential, I think can be done. And that's my closing thoughts on this, I suppose.
Thank you, Henry. Megaron or Neil, whoever wants to go next.
Mine's shorter because I like the way Neil talks, so I want to get out his way.
Neil's very smooth. Neil's smooth like a fine tequila.
Oh, I'm telling you. No.
Well, once you get to be my age, son.
Oh, yeah, that's it. So, and I don't know if there's a quick answer to this at all. This has nothing to do with living stones. Oh, wait a second. Excuse me. Neil said I was the most right-brained person that he'd ever met, and I'm starting to understand what you mean. I'm dude, I was about to say something, and I get stopped, and I'm processing. I want to be careful here.
No, I think I said you were the most winsome person.
Oh, well, I thought you said right-brained, but I
think winsome is what I said.
Yeah, I think winsome too. I think I heard winsome, but that's okay.
All right. I cracked me up. I was like, right brain, all right. Fine. Um, that's it. Okay. Um, when I prayed, it was I had a great mourning hit my heart, just like, and I think pray. You mourn with those that mourn. It's like console those that need consolation. I'd keep your eyes open for people, even Paul. I don't want to assume I know what he's thinking or feeling at all, but keeping him in prayer for not feeling sad, which I don't see how you could not, you know. And so that's what I was feeling like, but in a landslide. And then also for the congregation, I was concerned for them. So that's just, that was my prayer and fasting thing, like just the hearts of the people to be okay, as this is, it's in play. And the thing I do know about God is when you're with God, might have the same outcome, but the way you experience it can be totally different. And then so how you relate to the outcome afterward can be totally different. Instead of total destruction and disappointment and despair, maybe you can see God moving in it in a way maybe you didn't like, but you knew God was there. So that's my closing thoughts.
He is here, moving in our midst. I love that song, man. Yeah, I love that song. I'll sing that.
We should have a sing-along at every show. We should have one song close.
We are going to have music. We are going to have a music at Midwestuary. We have to keep it denominationally agnostic in order to hope and pray that Jacob Fatarucci does grace us with his presence. But
which is why We Are the World is the best option for corner music. By
the most woke song of the last 100 years.
Yes,
is the best corner song.
Bob Dylan's in it.
That's true. He is. All right, Neil. Final words.
I'm just really excited to meet all of you. Like, if nothing else happens, but I get to shake hands and probably more so hugs, and get to meet a bunch of people. And I know Henry. I know you're not going to be there, but I'm sure there'll be a time in the future. And I've already met Mark, so it's okay. But yeah, I'm not that far away from Henry, so we'll make it work.
I want to go back to New Orleans too. Like I have, my heart's there in some respects.
I'm hoping to start an estuary. I actually just talked to my pastor today further about it. Like I gave him some more details. He does not have a sense of what estuary is. I'm inching him into it, but I'm hoping to get it started, if not September, October, and we'll see how that goes in a Catholic church, no less.
That's cool. I accidentally started estuary in my young adult group exclusively. So
nice,
sweet.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there. I am actually. I have a medical procedure on Friday, so I would appreciate.
We'll pray for
prayers for it's a test, so we'll pray for good results, and that is what they call negative. We want a negative on the test.
Yeah.
But I will be with you in spirit, and no doubt feeling the FOMO. But yeah,
I'm gonna hug Ron so hard.
There you go, hug Ron really hard for me, and it'll be good. I look forward to hearing the stories, and to me, it's like I look for my final word on all this is, when in doubt, act. Take action in faith. If it's well intended, and you pray you pray for God's blessing. sometimes it's like that. I mean, like I said, the storm is beaten. There's certain things you just know you got to do. Batten down the hatches or close the shutters, and whatever you need to do, you do. And
yeah, it's not thoughts of the apostles; it's acts of the apostles.
Ooh. Okay, with that, we'll call it. That's Neil landed the plane. I'm gonna finish playing PVK's video, and so that's how we'll finish off the live stream. And so everybody, God bless. See you later, Neil. See you later, Ron. Henry, God bless you, sir. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys. So we got another 20 minutes or so. So I'm going to go finish out the video. The link I'll put in description. Well, not in description, but in the chat. And then after I'm out later, the video will have the donate. I don't currently have the donate information in the show description, but I will amend the show description and put the donate to Living Stones information there. And from here on out, I'll start including that in all of the live streams and videos for this channel. All right? We good to go?
Mark,
See ya.
I pray in the name of Jesus, you are a big negative.
Thank you. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. All right. God bless, folks. Stops. Why is it not doing it? Well, I'm doing like I'm starting to sound like Grim. Share. There we go. Yeah. What is the weird noises he makes? All right. Take care, folks.
And supporters beyond the local attenders, but this will likely not address the structural realities in the financial picture. Even if I, through the generosity of people from YouTube, could, let's say, bring in enough steady income to just support the church, I don't think that would frankly be healthy for the church. While deriving some supplemental income from some other sources is good, I think frankly it's natural and healthy for a church to live off the donations of its membership. People giving to the church is part of their participation in the church, and it's part of their spiritual growth. To have a completely unsubsidized church, or a completely subsidized church, generally speaking, is not healthy for the church or healthy for the members. Another project I've been working on with Classis Central California is the development of a program that would help churches in situations such as ours. While Classis has not yet formally developed this program, I'm asking the classical established church team to assist us in the process. This doesn't mean ongoing financial assistance or a bailout. It will likely come in the form of a counselor besides myself who can come alongside the church to help the church process the decisions it needs to make for herself. I don't have any details on this, but I hope in the next few months Classis will be able to come alongside to help us with it. What I want to emphasize is that ultimately the church has to make decisions for her future, and that decision matrix is separate from what I have to decide for my vocational future. It doesn't mean that I'm leaving. It just means those are two sets of questions that have to be dealt with. While they are connected to some degree, they also have to be respected as being separate. That doesn't mean that I'm necessarily leaving, just that there are two areas of decisions that need to be made. So the first thing we're going to do is lengthen the runway. The one-sheet document basically says, if nothing changes, then Living Stones will no longer be able to function as usual by September 2026. The purpose of what we are doing right now is to prepare for the changes that will certainly come. The first thing we'll do is try to lengthen the runway so that we will have at least an amount of time in order to work through the decisions we need to make. This will involve a variety of common sense, low-hanging fruit decisions that Council has already made. Having a congregational meeting to ask our current membership to increase their local giving if possible. Make an appeal both through Sunday live streams and Paul's YouTube presence to ask those beyond our walls to make a donation. Council will provide appropriate financial reports publicly to help people decide on how they might give. At livingstonecrc.com/give. It's always in the notes below. Online giving is a great way to make a donation to the church. And I know a good many of you have done that over the years, and your donations have been appreciated. If you pay taxes in the United States, at the end of the calendar year, you'll get a tax receipt, which may or may not help you out on your taxes, depending on your current tax situation. But if you're interested in giving, please do so. It's greatly appreciated. But again, the purpose here is not to simply have the church live off a YouTube community. The church should live off its own worshiping community. That's a principal thing. Look at ways we can trim our already streamlined budget. Those aren't going to solve the problem. Do some estuary seminars to bring in some additional income. We've been talking about that. We haven't done one yet. As we look at the numbers, odds are probably break even at best with those seminars. We'll see how that goes. But most of these things are sort of lengthen the runway, make sure we have enough breathing room so that we can make the kinds of decisions we need to make over the next few years. While this should give the church some breathing room, it won't replace having to make decisions about how Livingstone structures and funds its ministry. Scenarios for differing levels of change for the church. Now, I'm already working on, you might ask, well, who will make these decisions? Well, the council of the church will make these decisions. And one of the things that I'm continuing to think through is that once the council is going to have to make this, not just say a majority vote. Let's say you have options A, B, and C, and the church opts to C. The church is so small that if, let's say, church decides for option C, whatever that option might be, it might be that there are certain family and members that are integral for that plan, and if those people aren't committed for at least a couple of years for that option, then that plan isn't going to work. So it's going to be a complicated decision matrix that the church has to make. Below are some scenarios and explanations. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. There are more than I can articulate. There may be more than I can articulate here. But these can help the church come to a decision it will need to make over the next year. Number one, reset to emerging church or chapel status. Livingstone's right now is a small worshiping community that has attached itself to a full-time minister. For a variety of historic and economic reasons, that scenario is increasingly less common in America today. Most churches in our neighborhood of our size have bivocational ministers and meet in rented facilities. If they manage to grow large enough, usually above 200 in attendance, they will usually secure their first owned property. Their clergy generally don't have a graduate level theological degree. In this scenario, Paul would move on from his current employment, and Livingstone's would look for someone who would be willing to work at a much lower salary level. The church would revert to emerging status, having another council of neighboring churches, probably Christ Church Davis or Granite Springs, call and supervise the new pastor. That pastor would need to be ordained or at least a commissioned pastor in the CRC. Pros. This is the most status quo option, in that the basic ministry shape of the church won't change in terms of weekly worship services, Bible studies, etc. Besides Paul no longer being your pastor, this fresh vision would bring some, might bring some new growth and potentially a future of the church at its current location. Cons. A pastoral transition is difficult. A sufficient group of current membership would have to want this because of the current size of the church and because some people often leave the church because of a pastoral transition. The church would need to be all in on such a plan. If the church lost, lost half of its already small membership in the transition, this option would work. It would also be difficult to find someone to work bivocationally who would give the church a decent chance at future growth. It would take the right mix of person and place to make it work. Recently, we had one of our church plants that got to this size, and the founding pastor decided to leave that ministry. They called someone, and it's just a risky proposition. You don't know if that new person is going to work. Also, partly because the church, it's a bivocational call. Your pool is limited. There have to be alignment with the Christian Reformed Church. It's sort of the most status quo, but it's the riskiest. We'll have to see how that one goes. Many churches that try this won't make it long term. There are often a series of attempts at new leadership, but over time, morale and energy decline, and the church winds up closing. That's what happened with that church plant. Locally, that didn't make it. Major campus renovations to generate income for the church. There are a few sub-scenarios in this. It is often the case that churches reach the end of their life cycle if they have no debt and some facility assets that they can extend their life cycle and hope for something to come in the future to reset the scenario. Seller developed the undeveloped lot in the parking lot. The fastest way to raise money would be simply to sell the lot to a developer. Given the demand for housing, this would likely extend the runway option. Another idea kicked around has been for the church to develop the lot with an apartment housing. There are currently state and city initiatives to incentivize the sort of infill development. There are real complexities to these difficulties that we can foresee in our location by the executive airport flight path. There's been a developer that's been trying to buy our property for a number of years. They had bought portions of the property that the church had bought many years ago, and that portion was developed. It's difficult to develop because we're actually close to an executive airport. There had been a tragic accident in the 1970s that had sort of strengthened some of the laws and regulations about flight paths. So actually developing the property next to the church was more difficult than the developer had anticipated. So us putting in something else might be difficult because of the flight paths. It's also the case that a small church like ours isn't necessarily skilled in being a good landlord. It is uncertain how much monthly income would be generated by that property, and we have no idea how long such a plan would require to bring to fruition. We don't know that we have the runway to complete this. Now, in the past, we have rented to we've rented to childcare centers, we've rented to other churches. It's not a cash cow of sorts. Renting to childcare organizations has had a mixed result. Both times that we've done it, the church has probably lost money. And part of what we realized the second time that we rented to a childcare center was we just don't have, there wasn't enough money in it to, let's say, hire a full-time property manager who could maintain it at the level that was needed, and for the church to make the kind of income it needs to make. And so in that way, and also the church wasn't a particularly good landlord in that the property is aging, there are issues with it. Some of the buildings, for example, one of the buildings that was mostly used for the child care center. Child care centers have state regulations with respect to heating and cooling, and the lack of insulation and the poor windows in that building basically meant that we couldn't cool that building sufficiently for them. Redevelop the nursery and education building as rental spaces for other churches to bring in more rental income. We currently have 2 buildings on the facility that are underutilized. The nursery building could be remodeled to become space where another small church could rent space from us. Renting to churches, everybody wants Sunday morning except for the Adventists that want Saturday morning. We've rented to Adventist churches in the past, and that's brought in some income. But again, most of the churches in our neighborhood are small, struggling immigrant churches that don't tend to have a lot of money for anything. They have bivocational pastors or volunteer pastors, and what little money they bring in, they offer something. We have a Nigerian church currently that rents from us, and while the rental that they pay is welcome, it doesn't make an appreciable difference in the budget. There's real need for worship space for the kinds of churches in our area. The Anglican church that currently rents from us is a great example, because Sunday is a central day for churches to worship. Church worship spaces that can house between 20 and 50 are at a premium, and we could potentially rent to 2 or 4 of such groups. We'd probably need to borrow on the value of our current facility to raise the money to do needed renovations. We might be able to do it with cash on hand or with runway money, but that involves risks and takes time. Many of these groups have little money to pay rent, and they've experienced it in the past. Not only, and so we had one group, Pacific Island group, that rented from us, rented the large room. They just didn't quite have the idea of paying rent, and they never did. They had like a nice 6 months of free use of the facilities, but again, of course, that costs us. We are currently renting to the Anglicans, probably under market value for such a space, probably not as under market value as some might think. Groups come and go, and there's additional elements of liability to such groups as well as administrative needs. How much money could reasonably raise to both pay for the development costs and provide immediate income is unknown at this time. Sell the property, downsize, and or restart. Churches seldom appreciate the fact that their facility asset is a ministry asset. While I don't know the current value of our property on Florin Road in Amherst, even before I came to the church has had interested buyers for the property. We're right on a major corner, and so there would be a lot of interest in the property once we put it up for sale. If the church sold the property, that money could be used to plant a new church. A world of decisions would need to be made about this scenario. Where would we like to plant? Same neighborhood, Elk Grove, Natomas, Midtown, Woodland, Rancho Cordova, etc. Who would the leader be? Would Paul like to do this? Is he too old and tired? What sort of model would it be? Could the internet presence be an asset towards something like this? In what way would this still be living stones? Downsize, sell the facility and free up a lot of staff, program resources. The storefront would have some office space and space enough for Sunday morning gathering, on weekends, coffee break, estuary, et cetera, et cetera. A little bit more exposure, could potentially add some new people. There are leasing costs, but the maintenance and overhead on a smaller lease space requires less volunteer maintenance, and parking usually works out well because Sunday AM isn't prime time for a lot of strip mall retail. 4, more partnerships that generate income, interns and students doing ministry. This is a sense that this is something that's been happening for the last 20 years. Paul could take other employment with other CRC agencies and churches that wish to employ him for one task or another. This would either make Paul either formally or functionally bivocational at Living Stones. Interns and students might be able to be brought in to supplement the preaching, pastoral care, other tasks. Pros, worship, and ministry could still continue at Living Stones with a fair amount of continuity. Interns and students might breathe new life into the ministry and attract a new group, possibly giving the church a new life cycle. One of these students, interns, may eventually become senior pastor when Paul retires in a few years. Cons, it's high risk, high reward strategy that we don't have that other paying element currently. We'd have to find that piece or a group of pieces within the runway period for the scenario to work. There'd be transition for the church, and that Paul would be less available to do what he does now, and our membership would have to get used to students and interns, and we'd have to raise money for their support too in doing ministry in place of Paul. 5, closer, merger, Sacramento cluster. Together with other denominational partners, Living Stones has spent the last 28 years involved in church planting in Sacramento. We've been part of a team. The facility asset we currently own could be used to help strengthen and support the broader Sacramento ministry efforts. In other words, the other churches in Sacramento. This scenario would go something like this. Living Stones as a worshiping community would close and sell its property. The money would go to one of our other local cluster churches to administer, and Paul's credential and supervision would be passed on to one of those churches. Members of Living Stones would transfer their membership to one of these churches, or to River Rock, which is a church that had been an organized church and has reverted to emerging church, went to a different facility, and is doing pretty well in their new facility, the new rental space. And this kind of thing is not unusual, and with the church plants that we've worked in, we've seen a number of these scenarios. None of them have sold and owned property, though, to transition for it. That's what's different about this situation. Possibly renting a smaller space near the current site to do some other small things, similar to the previous scenario. Paul would continue to develop his internet ministry with time freed up with no longer having as many local ministry obligations. There could be other online church options, as was discussed in the virtual ministry task force document that Synod processed. While worship services would obviously no longer happen as Living Stones, Bible studies and other things could continue online and at other church locations. Paul would be available for Christchurch Davis, Folsom River Rock, Granite Springs, help serve in the ongoing development of the cluster. It's our desire that we would continue to plant new churches in the Sacramento area. While Paul would likely not be the church planter, he could assist in this effort. Paul would also help support these churches starting estuary groups if they desire. And Paul would continue to support the creation of estuary groups worldwide as he's doing now. That would free up, that'd be more free to, let's say, get out to the estuary, get out to the breakwater group in Europe. You know, there's a couple of groups. I basically would be more free to do more estuary work. The funds released by the sale of the property would go towards supporting Paul's salary and the development of cluster and estuary ministry in Sacramento. So I'm 4 years from retirement now in terms of being able to draw a pension from the denomination. At the end of the runway, I'd be 3 years. So figuring out what to do with that gap is gotta figure that out. Paul's going to have some decisions to make. It's been a priority of mine to keep Living Stones going as long as possible with the same people in ministry format. The church has blessed me in so many ways and been very good to me and my family for a very long time, and I'm deeply grateful. I also have to wrestle with the needs of my family and my calling from God to ministry. As I mentioned above, I see the work God has done through estuary and the internet ministry as providing a lot of unique ministry opportunities, which would end if I abandon it to take another call, or let's say another CRC church calls me, and then unless they would want me to continue to do what I'm doing, a larger church obviously would require more local responsibilities. The different scenarios above obviously impact me in different ways. As I mentioned, it's one minister on CRC Voices also said, "You're 62. A lot of churches don't want to call a pastor at your age." My father managed it. He was 4 years away from retirement. He took only his second church, and that was a blessing for him before he retired. And my parents then relocated in retirement and lived where my mother currently lives now. Different scenarios above obviously impact me in different ways. As I mentioned, it's a priority for my wife and I to stay in Sacramento because of her career, retirement needs, and the present location of most of our children. As I said at the outset of this rather long paper, that the decision matrix for me and Living Stones are separate. Living Stones needs to decide as a church what is best for her. Some of the scenarios above don't really include me because of situation or fit. Other scenarios do include me. In any scenario in which I am not a part, I will be fine. I can find ways to generate more income from my internet presence. There are, I haven't really done any writing. I can start doing some writing. That would probably bring in some, start selling some books. There are possibly other churches in the denomination who might like the possibilities I bring to something creative in terms of internet ministry. I only have 4 years until I'm able to receive pension income and Social Security income. So, yeah, it's obviously this might also impact the YouTube channel. Because I am presently the only minister in the Christian Reformed Church who is doing this, I am reluctant to stop doing this. I am also reluctant to only do this. I really want to keep, as long as possible, the posture of both doing ministry on the ground and ministry on the internet. So that's kind of where things are at. And so if you feel so moved, livingstonecrc.com/give. You can make a donation to the church. Just make a donation to the general fund. That would be fine. And that helps. At least I actually think the deacons forecast is rosy. And my concern was that, there's a fair amount of denial and avoidance with an issue like this. And what can sometimes happen is that the church then, they can't make pay. If they can't, the payroll is mostly me. There's a few other people. We've got janitorial, musician, secretarial. We've got some other small staff costs here too. But then suddenly, we can't pay Paul. Okay, what do we do? And then the church feels embarrassed and doesn't know what to do. And that's not the way you want to head into a situation like this. And I actually think that some of these scenarios, potentially other scenarios, there could be some really interesting forms of ministry that actually could, I think, probably grow. Churches are very complex individual things. Neighborhoods change, ministry models change, cultures change. Fit is always a big deal. And so, yeah, we'll, and you know, every congregation, so you've got basically about 40 people who are going to have to make this decision together. And yeah, it'll be interesting. So those of you who pray, keep us in prayer. For those of you who'd like to participate in extending the runway, livingstonecrc.com/give. And I presented this first to the congregation because it's theirs. I also posted this on CRC Voices to see what kind of interesting responses there might be. For the church membership, these kinds of moves are always difficult because you lose so much morale when you sort of decide, okay, we're going to dispel the avoidance and the denial, and we're going to look at this thing up front. And so you want to make that move carefully. But it's time to make that move. And you lose morale because people are like, what if I lose my church? And obviously the people who go here, they love their church. They love the other people of the church. The thought of their own church closing, it's a gut punch. And but it's time for the church to face some facts and to see what other things can arise. And part of the reason I put it out on the internet is you don't know what opportunities can arise. You just never know. So, yep. Thanks for listening. And I'm really interested to see what the comments are going to look like. Hi, this is Paul. This is going to be a little different.
I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible, and in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, begotten of his Father before all worlds, God of God, light of light, very God of very God, begotten, not made, being of one substance with the Father, by whom all things were made, who for us men and for our salvation came down from heaven, and was incarnate by the Holy Ghost of the Virgin Mary, and was made man, and was crucified also for us, under Pontius Pilate. He suffered and was buried, and the third day he rose again, according to the Scriptures, and ascended into heaven, and sitteth on the right hand of the Father. And he shall come again with glory, to judge both the quick and the dead, whose kingdom shall have no end. And I believe in the Holy Ghost, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceedeth from the Father and the Son, who with the Father and the Son together is worshipped and glorified, who spake by the prophets. And I believe one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. I acknowledge one baptism for the remission of sins, and I look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Amen.